Good morning. Thanks for joining me or rejoining me on the Meg Ellison Show. I sincerely appreciate you tuning in as always. Delighted to have joining me attorney from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, one of the good guys, Dan Lennington. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great and hoping the skies stay nice and clear for the eclipse, but I'm not sure how long that's going to last. So we'll have to wait till noon around here down in southeastern Wisconsin.
Oh, all right. So you've got clear skies down there
Yeah,
right
we
now.
have crystal clear, but I think it's getting cloudy up where you are, though.
Yeah, it's not looking too promising, but frankly, meh, I don't care. I mean, maybe some eclipse enthusiasts are screaming at the radio right now, but I don't know. It's just another day in paradise here.
Well, maybe I was just hoping that maybe our public school kids could maybe take this opportunity to learn maybe something about science. That was sort of my hope, is that maybe this scientific event might actually inject some learning into the classroom, and give some kids a nice experience today. But maybe that's hoping for too much. They're probably going to learn about pronouns and gender transitions and DEI, unfortunately.
Yeah, some true science as opposed to the stuff that they make up in the public school system. Well, let's talk about, earlier this morning, I had Skylar Croy, one of your colleagues, on from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, and we talked about a victory over DEI with the State Bar Association. I know that there's another, it's never ending, frankly, and I guess it's job security for those of you who work for Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. But let's talk about this recent settlement with regard to, I believe it was some woke policies, which I would allude to DEI again.
Yes. So this dispute involves the Concordia University Wisconsin campus. So the Concordia University is a private college system that is run by the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. There are about 5 campuses around the country: Wisconsin, Nebraska, Chicago, California, Minnesota. And these are campuses that are Lutheran and Christian in identity. They are private. The one in Wisconsin is just north of Milwaukee in Mequon. It has about 2,800 students, 5,200 total with the graduate campus. And it had a reputation for many years as being a good, small Christian college campus where you could send your kids and not get indoctrinated, and kids could come out and they could become church workers or nurses or accountants. So they had all sorts of really good programs there. But starting in about 2020, just like everywhere else, this campus got infected with a sort of a woke mind virus that was not only contrary to just normal attitudes of race neutrality and fair play, but also contrary to the teachings of the church that owns and operates this. They started a Black student union that pushed the 1619 project. They had a Hispanic union. They really pushed a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. And in 2022, they were going to have a new president. They wanted to come out, and the last president was retiring, and so they started a search committee. And the search committee in the university said that we want a new president for Concordia, Wisconsin, that is, quote, disruptive and, quote, transformational, and that will embrace principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the professors there objected to this and wrote an article in the Christian News magazine that said, wait a minute, these principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion are really contrary to Christian teaching. The idea that there are oppressors and oppressed, and that there's race essentialism, that your most important value about you is what your race is. And he really objected to DEI and the LGBTQ agenda, that was pervasive throughout the system. And after this was published, now this is a tenured professor of philosophy, Professor Greg Schulz. He was in February of 2022. He was suspended. He was kicked off campus. He was prohibited from coming back to campus. His office was locked. The security guards were told that he could not step foot back on the campus. All because he criticized the presidential search process and the woke direction of Concordia University. Now, you may be thinking, well, I thought tenured professors had, tenure. They had the ability to do this sort of thing. Well, that's exactly right, and that's why we got involved at the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, because Professor Schulz actually had a contract that guaranteed due process. He was not allowed to be suspended without a process and a vote of the Board of Regents, which never happened. And he was also guaranteed academic freedom, which is the ability to write and say and speak on certain different topics like this that are well within the mainstream. So that suspension went on for quite a long time, and it was just until last week that we resolved the matter with the university and entered into a settlement with them. So Professor Schulz has decided to retire from the university and pursue other interests. But we're happy with the settlement, although it's confidential. We can't say what's in it. But we are happy with some of the other directions that the university has taken. That the people who were involved in this suspension, the administrators have retired from the university system. Many of the people on the Board of Regents now are new. There's a new president who is taking the university in a different direction. So all in all, we think this is a positive development, and that we hope that this Concordia University in Wisconsin here turns the corner and becomes a place where parents once again want to send their kids to avoid DEI and indoctrination and actually learn something that might provide them with a good, solid education and a career, which I think is what we would hope for, higher education everywhere.
Is maybe there's a little bit of a pun intended when I say this, but is nothing sacred? I mean, this is surprising from Missouri Synod. I mean, I think that's the more conservative of the Lutheran brands, as far as I'm aware, and to I guess embrace something that's so antithetical of the Christian faith in this DEI, and I like to characterize it as DIE anyway. But I'm really disappointed that. Again, I'll go back to what I said: is nothing sacred, and unfortunately, we can't. There's no resting on this earth in terms of we can't trust that even a supposedly Christian college would adhere to the basic tenets of Christianity, and will need to be watched very carefully. And I mean, in this case, it's interesting. A private university has gone to these lengths to silence a professor and really send a chilling effect to anyone else that would consider speaking out a principled person anyway, to speaking out against a decision that a university like Concordia would be making in the future.
Yeah, and it really, there's a trend, I think. So Concordia University system, it used to have 9 campuses around the country. They've closed or consolidated 3 or 4 of them now. One of them in Austin, the woke sort of board of directors just sort of took over and basically stole the campus from the synod. And there's a federal lawsuit going on right now because these campuses and these universities are actually owned and operated by the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and this sort of rogue board of directors took over. This woke board down in Austin took over and basically stole the campus away. And it sounds comical, but it actually happened. And now the church is suing to sort of get their property back. And then recently, Concordia, Wisconsin, announced that they're laying off a couple dozen employees, that they have consolidated with an Ann Arbor campus, and there's some concern that the Ann Arbor campus in Michigan may close. Enrollment is dropping. So there is this sort of response that the public is having to woke and DEI curriculum in higher education, that the parents are not encouraging their kids to go to these places anymore. And then on the other side of the coin, you see places like the University of Florida system, which is booming with new students and new activity and new professors after Governor Ron DeSantis swapped out a bunch of the boards of regents in those different system schools down there. You actually have some conservative professor, Ryan Owens from the University of Wisconsin, who's actually going down to the University of Florida State to head up a new center down there. And so you see all this activity in Florida. People being excited once again about higher education, that kids are going to go get a valuable product for what they're paying for. And also Texas, University of Texas system is again booming with activity. And a lot of the southern states have seen sort of a resurgence in their higher education, their public education run by the taxpayers, and that there's much more interest. And that what we hear, the story we hear up in Wisconsin, though, is that, our Wisconsin system, the enrollment in some cases is falling, that these campuses are being consolidated, that campuses are closing, that it's just sort of all in a shambles at the University of Wisconsin system. And you can't really deny that the indoctrination and the DEI is playing a part in this, and that they're continually demanding more and more money from the taxpayers and the legislature, but they're being pig-headed and not wanting to reform their own house and to look at models other places in the country and just follow those models and experience a boom in student activity and interest. So I think the proof is in the pudding. I think that we can actually see what the results of DEI in higher education are, and that should provide a pathway for the higher education schools here in Wisconsin to follow suit. And every year parents are sitting down with their kids and trying to decide where they're going to send them and where their money is going to go. And those are real important conversations in higher education. It's very expensive. These are very important decisions. And if a parent or a student can't have confidence that they're going to actually receive a valuable education, they're not going to waste their money on that. And that's really sad. So I think the direction is clear of where we need to be going here in Wisconsin with our public and private higher education institutions.
I think the writing is on the wall, too, for Democrats, including Joe Biden, who's coming to Madison today to promote, they like to call it the student loan forgiveness program, but I would say it's more like the free education to indoctrinate your children program, or free education in exchange for your votes. I mean, that's probably more likely, but I think they realize that this is unpopular. The DEI program, or the DIE program, is unpopular in this country, and now the only way that they're going to be able to continue to force students to be subjected to this is by offering them a free education or a student loan forgiveness program that is, I guess, navigating around the decision by the Supreme Court.
Right. Yeah. That's one thing. We sued over that with the Brown County Taxpayers Association when it came out. our case was on appeal when the court actually stayed the program, so we dismissed our case. But we were happy to be part of that national conversation on the student loan forgiveness program, and it was struck down. And the Biden administration was held to have no authority to do what they did to forgive all that student debt. And now, but Biden is going to just try to do it again, and just another one of the lawless sort of things that the Biden administration does. And this has huge effects on incentives and national debt and the burden on taxpayers. It basically says, go ahead, students, take out as much debt as you want, and the federal government's just going to wipe it away anyway. That sends a signal to places like University of Wisconsin that, hey, we should just keep raising tuition, because no matter how much we raise tuition, Uncle Sam's always going to be there to pick up the bill. It's the reason why we have such a rampant inflation in healthcare. We have rampant inflation in higher education, why we keep pouring more money into public schools is because the government is just there to have a blank check for these activities and these policies. And of course the costs are going up. Of course prices are going up when you have someone willing to pay whatever you charge. And so Biden is just going to throw more gas on the inflation fire today by forgiving more student loans and sending the signal to these kids entering college in a few months, in August and September of this year. Hey, just take out the maximum you need to go to whatever college you want, regardless of the end product, because Uncle Sam's going to be there to pay the bill at the end of the day. And the people who are listening here, you're the ones paying. You're the ones paying for the kids to go down to University of Wisconsin-Madison and get their gender studies degrees and rack up $120,000 in debt. So it seems the incentives are perverted by this sort of policy, and it's illegal, and it's going to force more litigation and more uncertainty. And the real victims are the students who are told one thing, promised one thing, and something else happens. So it's really sad for our country that we have a lawless administration, and we need to set the ship right.
Well, and I mean, what a message it sends to those who couldn't afford to go to college or couldn't afford to send their children to college, but they're going to be on the hook for other people's kids to go to college as opposed to their own. And you're spot on, too, Dan, with earlier this month, the UW Board of Regents voted to raise in-state undergraduate tuition for the school year next year. And so, I mean, that's clearly we're seeing this pattern and this shift. And of course, why wouldn't they, as you suggest? Because, the taxpayers will be on the hook for it.
Yeah, I mean, what do we want out of our education system? We want to create citizens who can govern themselves. I mean, we want educated people who can run their own businesses or be good employees or be good managers or be entrepreneurs or think of new things or be creative or be artists, all sorts of things. We want people to come out with this degree and this education that allows them to be good citizens. And we sometimes just don't think about that when we're creating these higher education institutions. And so I think the model's out there. We know what type of citizen we want. We know what sort of education we want, and it will just take the political system, the voters, to affect change through the people we elect. The governor of Wisconsin appoints the Board of Regents for Wisconsin. So if you're upset with what the University of Wisconsin is doing, it's because you're upset with the regents who were appointed by the governor. So your vote does count. And if we're not producing people who know how to be good citizens, then our education system is failing us.
Dan Lennington, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, Deputy Counsel. Thanks for joining me this morning. Great work as always. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
We'll talk again soon, going to the 9:30 news, followed by your calls on the other side. So get ready, 715-845 2155 on the Meg Ellefson Show on WSAU.